Merry Christmas, everyone! Peace on earth and goodwill to all men except the men who fired Keith Lee. You're getting a lump of coal in a stocking, by which I mean I'm going to put a lump of coal in a stocking and come swinging for you in the night. As we approach the end of the year here at Wrestle Talk and partsFUNknown, we're going to be looking back over the past 12 months, looking at the terrifying lows, the dizzying highs, and the creamy middles from the pro wrestling biz. We're talking favorite matches, least favorite matches, and everything in between, starting with an old standard, the biggest injuries we saw happen live. Reminder, this is all about live injuries, so no Sami Callihan ankle, incredibly gross though it may be. No whatever incredibly suspicious injury Samoa Joe apparently suffered the day before NXT's rebrand, and none of that kayfabe stuff. No, Seth Rollins did not nearly kill Edge, do not even. Let's look at all the times wrestlers were decked harder than the halls this year. I'm Adam Hailing from partsFUNknown. Here are 10 insane injuries we saw happen live in 2021. Also, if you like this list, please consider liking and subscribing. That can be your Christmas present to us. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Number 10, Natalyas Leg. Is there a championship more dead in the water right now than the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships? Even the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships belong to a faction WWE are trying to make into a big deal. The main roster women's belts have been aimlessly traded like Caterpie Pokemon cards. Ain't no one need another Caterpie in their collection. To give you an idea of how much WWE did not care about the titles, how's this story? Natalya suffered an injury on Raw on July 26th in a match pitting Natty and Tamina versus Doudrop and Eva Marie. Natalya and Doudrop were chain wrestling when the former Piper Niven rolled over Natty's leg in a roll-up style maneuver. Following the move, Natalya is seen limping and an audible is called, with Doudrop walking away from her to let her tag out, after which medics rushed to Natty and helped her to the back. Despite Natalya going in for surgery, the belts weren't mentioned on TV because no one could give a genuine shit about the white and gold hubcaps. Number 9, Miz's ACL. What a year for product placement it's been, from the vaguely rock-flavored Pizza Hut crap extravaganza at Survivor Series to the second worst egg to ever feature at Survivor Series to whatever that weird water thing was at SummerSlam. Thanks, Nestle. And then there's this. To promote film Army of the Dead, WWE aired a lumberjack match at WrestleMania Backlash between Miz and Damian Priest, where the lumberjacks were zombies, and it aged me by at least 5 years. Worst of all, during that match, The Miz suffered the first major injury of his entire career when Damian Priest mistimed a top rope roundhouse kick to Miz, landing on the A-lister's legs, tearing his left ACL. Miz finished the match because he's great, lost, and then had to suffer the indignity of being, air quotes, eaten by Amdram deados while lying there in considerable pain. Not like this. Not like this. Number 8, MVP's knee. The Hurt Business are great, despite WWE's recent treatment of one of the most dapper factions in recent history. Seth can call himself the Drip Father all he wants. MVP is the best dressed man on WWE TV. Fact. In 2021, the man even added a cane to his wrestling executive realness, made it look good because of course he did, although the reason for its appearance was a full shoot. On the 15th of February episode of Raw, MVP injured his knee in a 6-man tag featuring the Hurt Business versus Lucha House Party and Riddle. Late in the match, MVP is knocked onto the floor outside by Riddle, blowing out his knee. He re-enters the ring, runs and hits a clothesline to Riddle, and you can immediately see he's hurt his own business, favoring the leg and hobbling through the rest of the match. MVP was finally written off TV for knee surgery 6 whole months later after an RKO from Orton, air quotes, broke MVP's ribs. Number 7, Humbertos Leg. Humberto Carrillo didn't just have his surname amputated this year, the cheeky funster also went to war with Sheamus, trading injuries like Caterpie Pokemon cards. Seriously, get the out of my deck, you useless Lepidoptera. The first injury was something that ended up looking a lot more scary than it actually ended up being, which is good because it looked really quite scary indeed. On the 10th of May episode of Raw, the former Carrillo set Sheamus up for a sunset flip powerbomb to the outside. However, the move was mistimed, and instead of landing between Humberto's legs, the Celtic Warrior landed flush on Carrillo's left leg. In a somewhat rare move, Humberto signaled to the referee that he wasn't able to continue, which is a completely fair thing to do if a giant Irishman lands on your leg, by the way, leading to the match being prematurely called off. Thankfully, the injury wasn't as serious as it first appeared, and Humberto was cleared to wrestle later that month, although maybe Sheamus wishes he hadn't. Number 6, Sheamus's nose. You know who's had a rubbish 2021? Sheamus's snoot. The man's been rocking the Trish Stratus facial covering for most of the year based on an injury that occurred on the 31st of May episode of Raw. Humberto Carrillo and Sheamus had the second match in their ill-fated series, and things seemed to be going a lot smoother until an errant forearm from Humberto smashed Shamo elbow across the face, immediately and visibly breaking his Irish nose. Sheamus finished the match despite his schnoz being in a different zip code to the rest of him, and he was placed in the face mask to prevent further injury. Naturally, further injury occurred 4 months later in a match against Jeff Hardy on the September 20th episode of Raw after Sheamus ripped off his own face mask. Shouldn't have done that, for Hardy rebounded off the ropes to hit him with another errant forearm to the face, and Sheamus falls immediately, clutching his rebroken nose, presumably whispering to himself, "For f***'s sake," but in an Irish accent that I'm not going to attempt. Number 5, Zoe Starks ACL. It's been a bad few years for people with the name Stark. First Tony died, now this. Zoe Stark was on something of a meteoric rise in NXT for the past 12 months, impressing against stars like Toni Storm and Io Shirai, with the latter becoming her sort of maybe best friend kind of. At Halloween Havoc, the first major show under the wonky NXT 2.0 umbrella, which is not the kind of umbrella you want to be caught in a storm with as it has foundational problems, Stark and Shirai lost their titles in a Stairway to Hell match, which is a ladder match if you don't speak NXT 2.0, and it turns out Zoe might have lost a bunch more than that, confirming after the match she tore her ACL and meniscus. There are 2 points in the match that could have happened. Early on, Zoe falls from the ladder, lands on the top rope and leaps to the outside. She's seen limping slightly after that move, and if she wasn't hurt then, she definitely was later on when she missed a Phoenix Splash, landing awkwardly on her legs before hitting the ladder. Ouch. And speaking of bad times for Starks, number 4, Ricky Starks' neck and Lance Archer's neck. I've put these two injuries together as they're similar enough that that's not to diminish either individually, as bloody hell these both could have gone a lot worse. On the April 21st edition of Dynamite, Ricky Starks injured his neck when a German suplex from Hangman Page dumped him scarily on his head. Though it was initially thought Starks had escaped injury, it crept up on him, costing him 3 months of ring time. Even more recently, however, on the 23rd of October episode of Dynamite, Lance Archer wrestled Eddie Kingston in the AEW title tournament when the Murder Hawk under-rotated during a moonsault, landing on his head and injuring his neck, before the cameras immediately cut to Tony Nese's reaction in the crowd, which is a weird thing for the cameras to have done. Tony Khan confirmed in a media scrum a few weeks later that Archer had twisted his neck but was doing good. Thank God, because yikes. Number 3, Asuka's teeth. And speaking of yikes, Britt Baker might be wrestling's resident dentist, but if you're strapped for cash, Shayna Baszler will do the job quicker and cheaper, except she'll do it with her foot. Oh no. Asuka's been off our screens ever since Money in the Bank with an arm injury, or not. It's actually quite confusing, but she did surface on Twitter in August to post about getting new teeth. Why did she need new teeth? Well, that'd be because in a tag match on the February 22nd episode of Raw, pitting Charlotte and Asuka against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, DMD, the Empress of Tomorrow had Jax locked in an armbar when the Queen of Spades rushed into the ring, kicked Asuka flush in the face, and knocked out her teeth. Bloody hell, though. Poor Asuka finished the match, taking not only a big boot to the face from Charlotte in the finish, but also a leg drop from Nia Jax. Please stop. Her mouth is already dead. Number 2, Kotabushi's shoulder. The golden star of New Japan, Kota Ibushi, has had a bloody roller coaster of a year, seeing some of the biggest highs and biggest lows of that career. At this year's Wrestle Kingdom, after years of never winning the big one, Ibushi did just that, becoming the undisputed New Japan heavyweight champion. Then he got given a significantly worse looking belt for his trouble, lost it a few months later to Will Ospreay. A few months after that, he was struck down with aspiration pneumonia, and then a few months after that, he lost in the finals of the G1 Climax tournament after a missed Phoenix Splash caused him to suffer from a dislocated shoulder, forcing Red Shoes to call off the match in the latest tragic mishap in what's been a nightmare year for New Japan. Ospreay suffered a neck injury in May, forcing him to vacate the company's top title. Naito went down with a knee injury in the same cursed G1. It's just a terrible time for New Japan right now. And number 1, Cash Wheeler's arm. Holy though, how to talk about this and keep our monetization? I mean, to be honest, if we've still got it, be a Christmas miracle. Now to bury it in a shallow grave, talking about the time Cash Wheeler impaled his arm in AEW. At this year's Fight for the Fallen special episode of Dynamite, FTR battled Santana and Ortiz. During the match, Wheeler climbs to the top rope but is struck by Santana. Wheeler falls and snags his arm on a hook on the turnbuckle, which cuts him open deep. Wheeler immediately leaves the match for medical attention, which is a bloody good thing too, as the injury ended up causing him nerve damage over the following month, even prompting some to speculate whether that would be the end of the road for FTR. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, and despite the gruesome injury, having actual flesh removed from his body, Wheeler recovered within 6 weeks. And that's our list. Did we miss any significant injuries? Let us know in the comments, tastefully please. These are human lives we're talking about. Like and subscribe to PartsFUNknown for more Ace Wrestling content. Jam that jam.